behind the camera, I have what might be one of my favorite new bikes for 2024, and it is the Vituvia Tiger. I mean, look at this thing. It just looks amazing. It's like a little retro motorcycle, all the way down to these white wall tires with their nice street tread. There are, in my opinion, two main kinds of e-bikes if we could divide e-bikes right down the middle. Now we can get nitty gritty and say there's probably 100 different types of e-bikes if we wanted to, but one is the e-bike that is intended to be pedaled, get some exercise on, and just make you superhuman or make riding a little easier. And then there's ones like the Tiger, which are designed to just ride around, primarily throttle only, and just look cool. And the pedals are really just there for show or just to be a legal e-bike. So this one definitely fits into the latter. The bike is 100% designed for looks first and pedaling second. And in my opinion, that is not a bad thing. Bikes like this from brands like Super 73 have done quite well over the last few years. And the Tiger is a new model to the market. Once again, it's by Vituvia. I just thought it looked amazing and I really wanted to try one. So I bought it. I was hoping, like really hoping when this bike showed up that the quality was gonna be as good as the pictures or the renderings, because when I first saw it, they didn't even have like actual photos of all the bikes. Some of them were like a computer generated image. The fit, the finish, the quality, the paint, everything realistically looks great. The way the paint matches on the fake tank, this is in fact the battery here, to the paint color on the frame. Fenders, even the fork is painted to match. The red on the rims matches up to the graphics. You've got this cool little retro number plate that's mounted on here. The saddle looks great and it's comfortable. Let me start with the few downsides that I can find. If you really did want to pedal, my knees are getting close to the handlebars. If I try and pedal this thing around, my knees would be whacking the sides of the tank, but I don't care. I don't really want to pedal it. But if you did, it's only a single speed. So, you know, if that matters, just know that this is a single speed, no gears, and I'm 100% okay with that, but that could potentially be a downside. And then I always say that I think on an e-bike, because they're heavier, they're a little faster, at least I'd like to see 180 millimeter rotors, and it is running fairly small 160s. They stop just fine, but you know, they're gonna wear more quickly than a bigger rotor because you gotta squeeze a little harder to stop, potentially after a long downhill, more prone to overheating. I would just like to see 180s out of the box. And then that's all I got. That's it, that's all I can find. Everything else looks good. If somebody has a downside that they can see or think of, please tell me in the comments what it is, but I can't find it. Now, battery capacity, the stock battery they offer, I think was 15 amp hours, but they offered me the option to upgrade that to a 35 amp hour. I wasn't even sure at first if that was gonna be like a secondary battery mounted down here. I was thinking it might be, but no, they fit all 35 amp hours into the tank, which is just super cool. If I wanted to go further than 50 miles, because realistically, 35 amp hours, I could probably go 50, 60 miles just on throttle without even pedaling. A lot of range out of this setup. But if I ever needed to go further, I mean, look how much space I have in the frame right here. I could mount a second battery right here if I really wanted to. There's a ton of space in here. Or they could put a big giant bag for storage in right here. A lot of options. Hopefully we see some stock things come out in the future to utilize that space that's there. But the other thing I gotta mention about this fake fuel tank up here is that on a real motorcycle, the shape of the tank is designed so that you can grip onto it with your legs so it's comfortable in the turns and everything. Now, these aren't obviously going fast enough to where that really matters, but it's comfortable. Like, you get on it and you sit on it, and the way the tank is shaped, it feels right. I've sat on a lot of bikes like this that have, you know, different saddle types. Some are super hard, uncomfortable. This one's comfortable. The tank shape is comfortable. Now coming up to the suspension fork, we've got a triple tree, which surprisingly has quite a bit of travel right there, and actually has some adjustment. Most of the forks on bikes like this have zero adjustment. This has some. It has a preload. It has a compression, double checking to make sure there's nothing else on there. Yeah, but a little bit of adjustment is better than what we normally see, which is no adjustment at all. Now let's talk about lights. It does have an integrated headlight, integrated tail light, which also has, check this out, we gotta turn this screen on. Super easy to read. Even if I point this thing directly at the sun, it's totally clear. So lights wise, we have the headlight, there we go. The tail light, which is also a brake light, and check this out. We have turn signals, and the awesome part about these signals is that they're actually integrated into the display, so you have an indicator blinking, so you can see if you actually left your signal on. They don't make any noise. They don't have like a self-canceling button or turn off after a little while, as far as I know. So you have to just press the button again to turn it back off. So that's on, back off. But super cool that it has turn signals built in. Now, it probably would be a touch better if it actually had signals on the front, but considering most bikes don't even come with turn signals at all, I'm not gonna knock it down for that. And then it also has a horn, which is actually pretty loud. That's what I would consider to be a very usable volume level. I think somebody in a car nearby would actually hear that. There's a USB port on the side of the display here, so I assume we could probably plug in a phone and charge off of that if we needed to. You could run some auxiliary lighting if you needed even more light than what this thing's got built in. On the display here, we've got battery. We have bars as well as a percentage meter. We have our trip distance in miles. We have 5 different assist settings. If we press the mode button, we have the odometer. You can see it's not even registered a mile on there yet, so we're just getting started. 0.9 is where we're at. It's got a walk mode as well, which that's one of those features everybody wants and I don't think most people actually use, but it's there. A half twist throttle on the right-hand side. It's disabled if the pedal assist is on 0, but as soon as you turn it to 1, now it's active and spins right up. And the pedal assist doesn't have any effect on the motor, it looks like. It just, you have to be in at least 1 for the throttle to turn on. Speed-wise, this definitely goes over 20 miles an hour. So it is a class 2 with a throttle, but it looks like the way this is set up out of the box, it goes a little more than it should, which I'm okay with. You've got kind of a heavy duty clamp style on top of the triple tree here. Bars have a pretty good rise to them. Rear suspension is really interesting. You got these big, beefy, bolted on shocks. You can see that the coil springs have actually 2 different rates on here. So in theory, that should make them kind of progressive. I rode it on some gravel through some potholes to get right here, and no complaints sitting down on the saddle from me. And there is what looks like an adjustment. You can see this top piece is threaded. We should be able to crank that down and tighten up the shocks if we wanted to, but they feel pretty comfortable. On other bikes like this, where you kind of have this motorcycle look, or even some of the just bikes with really big batteries and 20-inch fat tires I've reviewed, some were folding, and you know, the Anioki bikes, stuff like that. The shocks on some of those other bikes just looked and felt really cheap compared to these. Now these are not anything super fancy, they're not like air adjustable or anything like that, but for just road going use, these look like they're gonna work pretty well and last a long time. I'm hoping that with these 20-inch wheels, this fat bike hub motor, and a pretty large capacity battery, that this is going to perform really well. I'm pretty sure they just advertise it as a 750 watt on their website. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. Pretty good. We're at 22 miles an hour on the screen. I think it's reading a little fast over here. 28. Yeah, the display reads way faster than it should. So I'm getting 32 miles an hour over here and only 27 over there. So this is very optimistic. Hopefully we can change the diameter so it reads more accurately. But both the torque and the wattage felt pretty good with that. And yeah, that's right about what I saw. So 1200 watts and 33.3 foot-pounds of torque. Those are very respectable, good numbers. That means this bike should feel real peppy, climb hills really well. Probably won't have the greatest top-end speed. I bet it's gonna max out in the mid-20s. I don't think it's gonna get to 28, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Overall, those are pretty good numbers. It puts it up in the top half of our leaderboard of e-bikes here. So I've already done the dyno test. We kind of have an idea of what the power of this thing is like, but let's take it up and down the road, just feel out the handling a bit more, run the brakes through some nice hard stops, see if they're breaking in and working, and see if I can find anything wrong with it. So here's what it would look like if I pedaled. Yeah, I can pedal it. So in an emergency, if the motor died, I could get around. Flat ground, 10 miles an hour is a comfortable pedaling cadence. And it's only single speed, so that's it. But we're not gonna really do that because this thing's designed to throttle. I like that it picks up pretty quick. So I just hit a couple of potholes intentionally to kind of feel out the front suspension and those rear shocks. I barely felt it. The only thing that could possibly make this bike cooler is if it had a little cafe fairing in the front and a little cafe-shaped tailpiece on the back. That's a styling preference. I think it looks excellent the way it is. All right, let's give the brakes a nice hard stop. Started breaking the tires loose. So, despite the fact that they are small rotors, I was able to lock the brakes up easy. Got a little tire squeal there. I'm not seeing a UL listing on this, so I'm assuming it doesn't have one, like I said, unless it's hidden under there somewhere. I'll double check and check their website. I'll put it on screen if I'm wrong about that, but I don't believe it's UL listed. Let's lean it over. Stop sign. So I do have that rear tire pumped up to the max from the dyno run. If I let a hair of the pressure out, we probably have a little more grip. You know what? This bike feels really stable, which I wasn't actually expecting. Normally, 20-inch tire bikes feel a little squirrely, but I mean, look at this. This thing is like rock solid. So it must be the geometry of this frame and this fork, but I mean, I'm slowing down and this is feeling really good. Like really stable. Like almost weirdly stable. That's strange. Just for a 20-inch tire bike, that feels strange. They normally don't feel like that. So 510, I can pedal this as long as I don't turn too sharp. Let's see if I can pedal it and turn around. And I will whack my knees on the handlebars if I try and turn around. So height-wise, 5 foot range, this is a bike that would actually work. There's not as many e-bikes for people that are 5 foot. they've managed to keep the seat height really low. A lot of these 20-inch bikes, for some reason, the seats are still kind of ridiculously high, to be honest. I was just on another bike of a different brand that I won't mention because that's a separate video. And overall, the bike is kind of the similar look. It's definitely not as much like a motorcycle as this one, but it's, you know, 20-inch, fat tires, full suspension. The battery kind of looks like a fuel tank. It's in the same position. And I can barely put my feet flat down on that bike. And this one, it's like, no problem. So there it is. Tell me what you guys think in the comments of the Vituvia Tiger. I really like it. They have a few other color combinations that are equally as cool. In fact, I think that's where I'm gonna leave this video. Tell me, I'm gonna put the color combos on screen right now. Tell me in the comments, which one of these do you think is the coolest color combo? If you were to get one of these, which one would you get? And which battery option would you go for? Would you go for the 15 amp hour or would you go for the bigger 35 amp hour? I'll put a link in the description where you can get more details, more information, or you can order one. If you're in Northern California, come by our shop in Grass Valley and come take this one for a spin. If you want to see another video of a motorcycle retro inspired e-bike like this, check out this video right here.